Shout outs. What's up, crew? All right. So we're going to let a couple minutes to trickle in. So I know people are coming in from Kajabi. People are coming in from Outlook. People are coming in from LiveLink and all that stuff. So I want to give a couple of minutes. It's literally 3 o'clock on my clock, our clock. We're on the West Coast time. Suzy and I are from the best coast, the
That's
West
right.
Coast, the
That's
West
right.
Coast. But you have to, so we have to represent, there's a lot of other people out here that are not from the West Coast and they can make their little comments in the chat. That's fine. Any questions? I want to make sure that you guys can see each other, but hosts and panelists are the only ones that can see what's going on in terms of Q&A or chat, because we're going to highly encourage that over the next 5 minutes is to get questions from you all. So Gary, what's up, man? Oh man, Gary and Coop, Colorado representing. That's good. All right. So first of all, we're not jumping in yet, Sue. I just want to say thank you so much. This is like amazing. I don't know if the last time we actually did something like this. I don't know if we ever did anything like this.
It's been a while. Yeah, this is great. No, thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. And thanks to everyone that took time out of their day to listen and allow me to share my story. And hopefully we have some fun today. Sure, with Mike at the helm, we'll have some fun.
Well, I always say any of our guests, and that's one things been asking me about the whole podcast. And I know you had a chance to listen to some of it, right?
Yep.
Some people have asked me that. That was not in the cards originally, but I had enough nudging from people in the last year and said, Lindstrom, you're young at heart, you're doing all this tech stuff and you're doing all this, Kajabi and whatever you're doing. It'd be great if you had a platform like that. And it was enough nudging where I said, okay, it's time to lean in. So it was in the summertime. It's
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's not easy to do. It's not an easy lift, as some people talk about. But we got to get you on as our guest.
Anytime. But yeah, I got to say, listening to your podcast and just being on the calls and stuff, it's great to hear your voice. And you do have such a great, powerful energy. And I harken back to my days as an athlete when, I would have maybe some performance issues and give you a call and you're always there to pick me up or kick me in the butt or whatever. So it's good to hear your voice and it's good to see you and it's just such positive memories and positive vibes. So thank you, Mike, for being here.
I appreciate you coming on here and doing this and it's the honor to go back. And we'll get to this in a little bit, but you and I are from the 209, baby. 209. Modesto. So, but people don't realize how many badass athletes we have that came out of Modesto. We got you, right? Tony Graziani, who went to our high school together.
That's right. Same years,
went to Oregon, used to be Pac-10, Pac-12, went to play for the Falcons. Tish Venerini.
Yep. First, I think she scored the first first goal in women's Olympic history or something like that. She was in all the Nike commercials back in the day with Mia Hamm and that whole crew. So,
her and Tish went to University of North Carolina. So she's on my list too. She already knows this. I text her a lot.
Oh, does she? Okay.
I always ask her, hey, Tish, remind me again from the time you were 10 years old as a soccer player when you played with boys, because you were so great, until you went to the Olympics. Like, how many games did you ever lose in your life? And she goes, oh, I'm like 144, 2-1. I'm like, or whatever it is. I'm like, so you only lost like 2 or 3 times in your life as a soccer player.
Yeah, she's one of my heroes growing up, and she's not even that much older. But even to have a high school athlete be such a star and be junior high, middle school, where it's like, whoa, Tisha Venturini is amazing.
Yeah, so that's
a good interview.
A little 209. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we could have our own little event. I mean, we could have you
Olympic rowers and
we could have swimmers. We don't even have to. My podcast can just live off the 209.
I think it could.
That would be awesome. All right, so let's kick this bad boy off. People are coming in. I appreciate this. JB, what's up? Healy's, what's up? Kevin, Neil, Neil, thanks for coming in, man. T-Dubs. All right, so give us a little history here. I'm going to tell you. We actually met in high school. It was actually before that, but we went to high school together. So I graduated in 1991. I think you all probably know my age by now. I'm 52, be 53 in 3 weeks. No one's counting.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah. And I know you have your anniversary coming up in November because you're right. I remember dates. You
Day
know
after
that.
Your birthday.
Yep. And so 20 plus years. So I got to watch you grow up with my brother.
That's right.
literally. So yours were 4 or 5 years behind, and then watching you do what you were doing. And I'm thinking to my brother when he was a freshman in high school, I said, Justin, why aren't you waking up on Saturday at 6 o'clock in the morning and going out with dad and throwing a discus, like doing something like that, like your friend Susie's doing that, right? So but that
Yeah.
was always my paradigm of you and your dad growing up
Uh-huh.
was you were unique. I always knew that you're an athlete. I mean, you don't meet too many women that are 6 foot, number one, two, that have that discipline, that drive, all the things that you had at a young age. So that's how we met originally. And then we grew up together. You went to college, you went to UCLA, I went to UCSD. We represent the UC system. That's great.
Yeah.
But then you got into your career and I started looking at you a little different, like, wow, this is, I saw this at a young age, but I didn't realize how special this really was.
Mhm.
And it was really when you started winning things around the world, Pan Am Games and the things that you did as a discus thrower. But that to me was always intriguing. So I always have to start off with the first question, which I always do because it's the name of my book. What's your story?
Yeah.
Give us the 2 minute version of what's your story, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get back to that old school because I want to
Okay.
hear the progression from childhood. No one gets into discus. Everyone's playing baseball, basketball, football, volleyball, tennis.
Right. No,
So
I
we,
mean,
we
and
have
me
to hear
too.
about
Yeah.
this. Yeah. All right. So what's your story?
So the story is, yeah, I grew up in Modesto, California. Family was here to work for Gallo Wines, one of our big, huge companies here in this area. And I'm the youngest of six, and so sports was always a thing, right? I have four older brothers and a sister, and we're always outside playing, although I'm younger by quite a bit. And yeah, so always loved sports. Was inspired by the Olympics at a young age. Before I even touched a discus, was still, kicking soccer balls and doing whatever kids do at like 8 years old. Saw the 1984 Olympics on the television back when people still watched, straight up broadcast television, and saw Carl Lewis and Jackie Joyner Kersee and kind of that whole era. And it was, but just really, I was like, huh, I want to do that. And so, as a kid, you have all kinds of thoughts, but it was like kind of almost like a lightning bolt, like, okay, that's really cool. I want to do that. And so the long and the short of it is, and we can get into all the details, I continued to do sports because I just enjoyed it. It was always sort of a natural athlete. And then in fifth grade, my dad had me try throwing the discus after track practice. So I would run track, local track club, nothing special. And this is in the era when people didn't specialize, right? And there's something to that. We can talk about that. And as a parent of two children, I'm navigating those waters myself. Like, do we do year-round baseball? Do we do year-round, what do we do? So leaning on my own experiences is helpful. But essentially doing track as an afterthought to stay in shape for soccer, and then tried discus, and I was good at it. And my dad, interestingly enough, my parents were both important parts of this story. Of course, my mother did a lot of the heavy lifting behind the scenes, as a lot of moms do. But my father was the one who coached me. So there's a lot of talk about my father because we were sort of in the athletic trenches together in terms of from when I started to when I retired, frankly. So got into discus throwing, and my dad was actually a scholarship athlete in football, had a scholarship to USC in the 90s. And anyway, that's kind of like old leather helmets and stuff like that. And so he was obviously a gifted athlete as well, and was a chemical engineer by trade in the wine industry. So he was very good at studying things and finding patterns and whatnot. And so we learned the discus together, really. And he had me try it that one day after track practice. And that's really what started it all. And I like to tell people that the story of my athletic career really started with bribery, right? So it'd be like, Susie, try the discus. I was like, Dad, nope. All the fat kids go out and do discus. I'm tall, I'm thin, I play basketball, I play soccer. I'm not hairy and fat like I saw on the Olympics, right? Those weren't the people inspiring me. It was the Jackie Joyner Kersees. He's like, just try it. I'll buy you a Slurpee. So sure enough, I try it. I get my Slurpee. Well, now it becomes this whole game of like, throw this distance, get this reward. And a lot of times it was Slurpees after practice and whatnot. So that's what drove the bus early till I really came to appreciate the sport, with Slurpees and other sort of childish rewards. But
I guess
that's how we got started. And
wow. What Slurpees did Dad give you from Motown back in the day?
Well,
Do
it
you
was a
remember that?
7-Eleven, Mike.
Of course, of
Nothing,
course,
yeah.
of
I
course.
mean, back then, 80s, we
Yeah.
didn't have as many choices, I don't think. But Yeah,
So,
so it's pretty easy to please then.
so when did it click for you though? Was it in high school? Was it in junior high school where you're like, okay, these Slurpees are great, but I'm actually pretty good at this? Like when did it click for you? Like, holy
So
moly.
yeah, so I was 10 years old. It was year one, was like kind of the first realization. There's kind of and it evolved, right? So the first year I'm fifth grade, we go down to UC Irvine in the summer to do sort of like age group state meet. And my mom takes me down because my dad's working and I win. So I win my category, my age group, which was like 9 and 10-year-olds. And I win the whole state of California in the girls' discus. And I had just started. I was running. The other funny thing is I was doing distance running as part of my track experience, right? Well, I wasn't as good at, and the running really hurt, right? So running 3,000 meters or whatever that practice was painful, and 800 meters, it just like it hurt. And discus was like a lot more fun. I threw, I won more meets. And so I sort of naturally started to, you like what you're good at, right?
Yeah.
So that sort of lit the interest to keep pursuing it. And then the following year, I break the national record in Eugene, Oregon, at the national championships or one of the national meets. And that was like, you know, never done crack or anything, but I can imagine it was really like, whoa, I'm hooked now, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to keep doing this. And so I thought the idea that I could at 10 or 11 or whatever age I was, middle school, that I just did something that no one else in my age group had ever done in the United States was very appealing to me. Like that really checked a box and
Yeah.
maybe deserves some psychological evaluation, but that's really what started it. And then I would go to camps and I still played basketball in the fall. So I was a two-sport athlete. Interestingly enough, I just heard an interview with Wayne Gretzky talking about when he was growing up, he played baseball and hockey, and he would put his hockey gear down in March, pick up his baseball gear, and went pick up his hockey gear again until September 4th or something. And I think there's something to that, by the way, for all the parents with children listening.
Yep.
So I was a two-sport athlete my whole life until I went to college. So all to say, then and by junior high, I knew for sure I could get a scholarship if I kept it up because I was throwing so far. I was throwing as far as the high school athletes
Yep.
in middle school. Um, and I was breaking every age group and every class record, meaning from like sixth grade to my senior year, I broke every national record you could possibly break. And then going into my professional collegiate life, I broke all those records too, except for the official NC2A record, which at that time, I think she still holds it. Meg Ritchie, I think, still holds it. She was from Scotland and came in, and it was in an era when I don't know how to say this nicely, I guess we're a tight-knit group here, but
No, we all
drugs were not
know.
tested.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember.
There might have been some hair in places that normally should
Yes,
be
I
there,
remember.
but,
I went up in
oh,
so
by the way, Meg's a lovely woman. I'm just saying that was an era when
yep.
that was more prevalent. And actually, she would eventually mentor me later in my career. High
Yeah.
school helped me with strength coaches. So I certainly don't mean to make fun of her.
No,
Per
it's
se, just
not.
the
It's not
era.
like that. But I remember when we would show up at trials, and I would see these women that you're competing against that were they're very big people. And I remember
Yeah.
asking your brother, JP, who was
Yeah.
obviously a
Mhm.
good friend and
Yeah.
mentor to mine in many ways. And like it was always like the running joke in the background. It's like, come on, Mike, they're in Bulgaria, they're in Russia, they're
Right.
whatever country. I'm not picking on countries at that time. So the
Those
sanctions
would
were
be the
much different
countries.
around around steroid use,
Yeah.
and these women were massive people. And then Susie walks in, 6 foot, like super lean, like not
Mostly.
bulky, like
Yeah.
you look like a runner. I mean, I remember
True.
the first time I saw you throw, I thought, wow, she's like very different than everybody out there. But
Yeah.
you had technique, you had belief, and all the stuff that we'll get into today. But that
Sure.
was just, that was the era. I mean, we're not
It
picking on
was.
people. That was the
No,
era
it was.
of what it
And I
was with
understand
sports.
it. And there was it's a fascinating era, actually. There's politics tied into that. There's people um, elevating their way of life, like people in these Eastern Bloc countries at the time, the kind of rewards they were getting from their governments to do these things, like it's pretty appealing. Like I understand why they did it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at college.
Okay.
At that point, I mean, I remember because I went to high school that same
Yeah.
time, that time frame. I was already kind of moved on to college at that point,
Yeah.
but you were looking at yours. What was the big thing for you? Was it, hey, I want to stay on the West Coast? Was it the programs? Like, what really influenced you where you were going to go? Because you ended up at UCLA,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
What was the big hook there when you said, okay, that's going to be my spot and that's where I'm going to lay my ground? Because in track and field, a lot of people don't know this. That's kind of what happens. Whatever college you go to, like Oregon, I mean, that's where
Yeah.
Fontaine, right? I got that print
Right.
when I
Yeah.
was watching you
Legend.
throw in 2008 up in Oregon. I got that same
Awesome.
exact print of Prefontaine. So wherever you plant your ground in college in track and field, that's kind of like the impetus to where you're going to jump off to in the Olympic world. So tell us a little about that.
Yeah, if you're a serious athlete going into college and thinking about going beyond, and it's true even to this day, although of course it changes like any sports programs, professional too, right? They ebb and flow. So I was in an era when UCLA was really the dominant school for throwing. We had the best coach in the country, we had the best throwers. LA and I did think this way back, even then, LA had a larger market, right? So my exposure was going to be larger, even though it was before social media and all that, which I
Mhm.
think definitely helps level the playing field. So I wanted to be a big fish in a big pond. And that is really what drove me. I wanted to make an Olympic team because I also had a full ride scholarship to Stanford. So I have a letter at home, which is really funny. Stanford letterhead that says, "Congratulations, Suzy. You're the first person accepted into the class of 1994," which I would have been classmates with Tiger. So anyway,
Small fact, small fact.
yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he
Never
played
heard of him.
golf.
Never heard of that
Yeah,
guy.
blah blah blah. So I said no, right? And my mother cried, right? Because growing up in Northern California, Stanford's a big deal, right? And Stanford's a big deal
Yep.
across the country, I
Yep.
suppose, but
100%.
especially for us. And so I turned down a full ride to Stanford because their track program just did not have the stuff. They were in a rebuilding phase and it just was unimpressive, frankly. And so I went with what I thought would give me the best shot to be in the Olympics. And also, of course, academics were important. And
Yeah.
so big fish, big pond is really what I wanted to be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough one. I mean, Stan, you're right. I
Which
mean,
as a women's discus thrower is asking a lot.
that's, but the interesting thing to me always when watching you, come up, I just didn't know anyone in the world that, oh yeah, my daughter is a discus thrower. Oh, I
Right.
mean, I can look down I won't name names out of, respect, but there's a lot of people in here in this group who I can go down. Okay, soccer player, kid, baseball. You have kids that are playing 18, 19, 20-year olds right now in
Yeah.
sports
Hmm.
that are now 45, 50, 52, my age and above that are here that have
Hmm.
watched their own kids go through what you went through back then.
Yeah.
That just wasn't a thing. You weren't throwing the javelin, you weren't figure skating, you weren't
Yeah.
throwing the discus at 16, 17, 18. So you were in a little bit of a competitive pool that was different, but
Yeah.
you were so dominant. Even the ones that were around the United States that
Mhm.
were throwing, you were out throwing them by miles. As
Yeah.
we would say, you were
Yes.
throwing bombs,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
People don't really appreciate that. So my hope is in the next Olympics, our crew here will watch it. That's what I'd love
Well,
to see. I'd
the
love to see you on NBC, like commentating.
well, I'll tell you this, that we do have currently a women's discus thrower named Val Almond, who's like sensational. And she's the whole package. She's like throwing distances that I poked at and did occasionally, she's doing consistently. She looks good, right? She's fit, she's attractive, she's feminine, she's well spoken, she's Stanford grad.
Love
Uh,
it.
so she's really good for the sport, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And she's interesting to watch. She'll probably win in LA and she won in Paris. So we actually have a American discus thrower that is compelling and interesting to watch. So hope they do watch her because it's really cool to
I
see.
love it. And we can all help her with social media now. We have it at our fingertips.
I'm fangirling, huh?
Yep,
But
we
yeah,
can
it's all good.
absolutely go on Instagram, LinkedIn, and actually promote her and say we'll take the clips from this interview
Yeah,
and we'll promote her.
there
That's
you go.
which, by the way, would have been amazing back in the day. I remember being in the trials in '08 in Eugene for Beijing. Beijing was
Yeah,
'08, and that would have been your third Olympics, which it
yeah,
was. And I remember thinking that. Yeah, obviously I wasn't in that Zuckerberg mindset, but I'm thinking, how cool would it be? I'm up here by myself with your brother and all the family, and
Yeah,
I'm sending these random old school text messages trying to tell them what's going on. Now it's
right.
like broadcast. You just hold
Oh,
a
I
video
know.
up.
It's amazing. It's so awesome.
Yeah. I
It
mean, can
really
you
is.
imagine what's the difference? Like, what if you had social media back then? How would your life or career be different, do you think?
I don't know how it would be different. I do know that the exposure would have been much greater. The kinds of followings that the athletes get are pretty incredible, right? And I know where it would really have been interesting is in college, right? Because in my era, like you couldn't even accept a hot dog without getting in trouble or something, right? And now you can get paid. And so talking to some of my friends that do coach, you know, football players, of course, football is going to get the most money because
Yeah,
that's
of course.
money generating sport, right? But we would have been paid salaries that, even today I would, or money today that you'd be like, oh, that would be nice, you know?
Yeah.
So
That's
that has definitely changed, and who knows what that would have done to a young person. But I think it's a double-edged sword. I think in one sense, for PR purposes and just marketing of oneself, it would have been great, increased the exposure and maybe garnered a few more sponsors. The flip side is, I also was a lot younger, so you probably do dumb crap or have to be really guarded, you know,
yeah.
and how you respond. Although I was pretty good at managing myself that way, but, or, there's more opportunities maybe to believe your own press or to believe someone else's or get caught up in the comments and all that. So maybe avoided some of those pitfalls, but we did have chat rooms and stuff. And I would have to keep myself out of those because I would start to get mad at people. I mean, not on the keyboards
Yep.
and react externally, but internally, right? I let people rent space in my head
Yep.
if I read a comment about a performance I had done or something. And we're talking about a very small subsect of the population that
Yep.
goes in and comments on discus throwing or shot putting or whatever, right? So you have to
Yeah.
keep perspective. But I do think overall having the socials back in my era probably would have been very beneficial
I
overall.
love that you're still saying that. It's a saying that you and I've talked about a long time, renting space in your head. Remember we talked
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, right.
Yeah, I always have this metaphor. A lot of my, my veterans know this. My belief is that something or somebody, if they've done something to you, and I absolutely believe whoever angers you conquers you. And if
Yeah.
you're unconquerable, then anger should be something you should check. I've always believed that. I still do. But
Yes,
if somebody's in your headspace, they're getting free rent, right?
totally.
If you're thinking about that person, that hater, that
Yeah,
commentator, whatever, it could be something on social nowadays. I mean, the podcast, I mean, that we just launched, it's been 4 weeks, good run. But yeah, Scott, Lisa, and I have had a couple people send us some stuff saying, what are you guys doing here? I told Scott, don't pay attention to that. That's one human being. And you don't even know if it's a human being anymore. It's a bot.
true.
It could be something that's said
Totally.
before. But back in the day, when you're actually doing a live interview take on NBC or you're coming off and somebody says something and you're young, I mean, let's be real. You're
Yes,
college or getting out of school at 22 years old.
yep,
You weren't trained mentally for the negativity and this. Kids now, which is good or bad, they're conditioned to scroll, the brain rot, right? Brain rot, boom, boom, boom,
mhm,
boom. And they're getting conditioned, which is horrible. We all need to have that parked and be mindful. You know that
for sure.
as a parent yourself. But
Absolutely.
you think about that, it's always that coulda, shoulda, woulda. I wish I would have grown up. I hear A-Rod talk about it. I hear athletes talk about, oh my, even our friend Tony Graziani, who played at Oregon.
Yeah, yeah.
They had a football player on him that year when he came down from his for his birthday at Modesto, whatever year it was when they went to the Rose Bowl. And we went and played the football game on the sport. And there's a left-handed quarterback at
Oh, right,
Oregon,
right,
number 10. This is in 97, 98. I'm like, Tony,
right.
are you getting paid for that? He's
He's
like,
like,
I didn't even know I was on the game.
yeah,
Right.
right.
Nowadays, he would be getting paid for
You
that.
may be getting paid big bucks.
That's a,
Big
so
bucks.
the, so the game, that's a big game changer.
Yeah, that's
So
a whole, by the way, that could be a whole podcast for you because it's changed college sports in such a way. And there's really great arguments pro and con, right?
yeah,
Nick
yeah.
Saban left for that very reason.
Yeah, yeah. I was at a conference last year when the week before he left, and Deion Sanders was the keynote speaker, and Deion spoke that week on stage in front of people, which is
Yeah.
kind of funny. He goes, "All right, there's 1,000 people in the room, by the way. Don't turn on your cell phones. I'm about to tell you something unique. What does everybody do?
Whoop.
Grab their cell phones,
Yeah. Yeah.
myself included."
Right, of
And
course. I'm going to get this good
yeah,
feed
and he
here.
went
Yeah.
on a 5 minute rant about Nick Saban had called him and said, now it's public, that said, hey, the reason why I'm getting out of the sport is because of all this. I used to be able to fly in anywhere in America, sit at a table with a family, look in the
Mhm.
eyes, make certain commitments or promises. And now when I fly down there, I got the mom or dad saying, how much am I going to get paid?
Right.
That wasn't even a thing when I started in
Right.
football, as Nick Saban will say. So it's sad,
Yeah.
but you're right. It needs to be regulated. That's different. All right. So let's
Yeah.
go back real quick. There's
Mhm.
so much to unpack here. All
There's
right.
a lot.
So mom and dad, big influence on your life. And so
Yes.
mom ran, she was point guard for a long time. I've only had a chance to meet mom a couple times.
Yeah.
Big impact on your life. Something happened to you when you were 22 years old. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so sadly, I lost my mother at a very young age. She died of ovarian cancer when I was 20. I just turned 22. Learned of the news, actually. So there's a Disney sports complex back in Orlando. I think it's still in existence in some form or fashion. Well, had just opened back in my day. And so, anyway, long story short, I didn't have a cell phone at the time. And my mom was supposed to go in for a procedure, and it was like hours and hours, and I was on a payphone before I'm about to throw and compete against all these different universities, and I cannot get a hold of my family. It's like so strange. She should be out of surgery by now. Well, I get my dad, who's the engineer, is very matter of fact. I'm like,
Yep.
hey, what's going on? And he's like, well, your mother has stage 4 cancer. I'm like, what's stage 4? I had no idea, right? So I had a very idyllic childhood and life until that moment and learned about that. And then he actually explained it to me on the phone. So I get off a payphone at Disney Orlando Sports Complex in tears. And I'm a junior, and I got a freshman girl named Selah Sua, who is this like
Yeah,
really
of
talented
course.
Samoan discus thrower, is like up my ass, right? Like about to beat me. And so I got to pull myself together and like win the meet. And so anyway, all that to say is I got that news in a very unusual situation and kind of used it for a while actually to fuel some of my performances, like kind of that anger, but lost her the subsequent, I don't know, year and a half later. And, it's one of those things where when it's happening to you as a young person, when you're going through all that, that's horrible, right? And then now in my late 40s, I can look back at it and I can see a lot of the good things that came from it, a lot of the growth that I had to do as a human being, and how, that horrible at the time situation. And of course, I miss her. I wish she could know my kids and all those things that she missed actually serve you, right?
Yeah.
So these horrible things in your life, and everyone that's on this call knows this in their
Yeah.
own
Yeah.
way. But yeah, so we lost her too early, but it was really like so many of us have probably experienced the fuel that propelled me forward. Maybe not right away. There was definitely a dip in performances when she actually passed away. That year was rough, right? It was bad.
Yeah.
And it was bad also. My coach, turns out, was not the most supportive coach in the world. And so I learned a lot of very valuable life lessons at
Yeah.
age 22. And
Yeah.
so for that, I'm extremely grateful. But yeah, my
Yeah.
mother was a wonderful woman, kind, caring, very selfless, like, just
Yeah.
really great human being. So I try to model my mothering after her as much as possible. And like so many things, when you have children, you're like, oh, thank you, mom. Like, or it's either like, oh, thank you,
That's
mom and dad, or it's like, okay, I'll do that one differently. But yeah, so I really was very blessed with two really outstanding parents, and they worked really well as a team. And one sort of side note here, I'm the youngest of six, and my next closest is 10 years. So I had some of the benefits of being a big family, but then I really only had my sister in the house. So I benefited from all my siblings being out and all their attention on me like an only child, right? So I really had the best of all worlds. And then my four brothers had softened them up. I, I had their time, attention, and they had more resources too. So if you read, I know you have, but the book Outliers talks about these sort of circumstances coming together for someone to provide the luck. And, however you want to say that. Yes, I worked hard. I had a certain mindset. I had mentors and friends in my life like you, but I also was kind of blessed or lucky, or however you want to look at that,
yeah.
uh,
Wow.
my parents were in that position.
So I'm gonna pivot to a question
Yeah.
I told you I might ask you at some point, but I'm gonna ask you now because I think it's appropriate. In my podcasts and my interviews, I love at the very end, which we will do, by the way. I
Okay.
ask like a rapid succession of questions, and when we were doing our prep, I said, "What's one question that I might ask you?" I never give scripts to my guests. You know that, no scripts,
Yes. No scripts.
no scripts. Is who's like a really influential person that's in your cell phone? Because
Yeah.
that's a very common question here on a ESPN or whatever. And you pondered it and you thought, and you said to me,
My dad.
Dad,
Yeah.
that really hit me. And I was like, oh man, that's not really what I meant by the question. But you leveled me,
Sorry to take
man.
that one and turn it upside down.
Girlfriend, you leveled me. You leveled me in that moment because when you hear it on TikTok or Instagram, you're always thinking about you're trying to like show clout, like, oh yeah, I got
Right.
the president's number in my cell phone, or I know
Right.
so and so, right?
Exactly.
Which is, I was trying to play on words because that's a question. And the
For sure.
fact that you thought about it authentically from the heart and
Yeah.
you hit me with that, I'm like, all right, I'm definitely asking her that question because how often do you have that? He's what, 87 years old, right?
Yeah, he's 87 and coached me up to UCLA, and then when I graduated from UCLA and all that, my mother passed away. We worked together for a few years after that, and my dad's always been in my corner, and
Wow.
he's getting older, and you can see it's
Yeah.
it's amazing if you're and we're blessed in a way, right? My mom died young, so we didn't get to see her age really. And now watching my father age, it's like he calls that you pick up the phone, right? Or even recently, something was really kind of bothering me. I'm like, I need my dad's insight, right? I need the
So
old man that has the wisdom that can just cut through all the BS and get to the point. And he
love it.
did. Like,
Love
so
it.
I value that maybe more than anything, right? Being able to pick up that phone and have that wise counsel or just to hear his voice.
Yep. I trust me, I knew when your brother, John, JP, as we called him, had said, hey, I really want you to seriously think about working with my sister, on a coaching level. I was kind of initially intimidated. I'm like, dude, I'm not an athlete in her way, not in any way, shape, or form. He's like, no, no, no. The stuff that you teach me, this thing you teach leaders, the mindset, the language, self-talk, planning, visualization, all the stuff that you teach me, I think will help her. I said, okay. Well, I went to high school there. We're friends. I mean, I usually don't coach my friends, but let's see how this goes. So you and I had talked on the phone, and you're like, let's do it. But I always knew my spot. You know, Dad was the coach. Dad was the coach. Dad was the Yoda, man. And I would never ever say anything that would be a fly in the face of. But I always had this little bit of apprehension, even when I remember leading up to Beijing.
Mhm.
Remember I talked about visualization.
Yeah,
And back then we didn't have like 3D imaging and we can go Google something.
right.
I said,
No, it's amazing.
Sue, we got to find images of the stadium because I
Yeah,
heard this thing's
it was not
overwhelming.
easy.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
go get images, print them on the wall, and
yeah.
close your eyes and picture yourself walking in the stadium. Remember us doing that?
Yep,
So
yeah,
you're walking in because your sport's a little different, than maybe the track runners that are running at the 100 meter. So you
right.
have your own moment. So we did a lot of the stuff that I would teach, but I knew in my heart I had to check myself because Dad was the coach, and that's the way it was when I saw you up in Eugene in the trials that year. I barely talked to your dad. I mean, he knew who I was,
Yeah.
in your life, etc. But he was Yoda, man. He was Yoda.
Yeah, my dad brought, I think the big thing was, just I knew my father, I knew where his loyalties were, right? Like, and he may not have even been the best technical coach, or he certainly wasn't the best coach under pressure. Like, I did know my dad's weaknesses that way, which was so helpful to have your coaching because when I did need confidence or I did need someone to bolster that part of the competitive experience, I had your coaching to lean on because my dad, God bless him and all of his wonderfulness, was really good at the you know tactical part of getting things organized, but the emotional part of the highs and lows and the
Yeah,
pressure cooker, I would have to support him.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
there in the 2000 Olympics, I remember thinking, I'm ready to throw really far. And my dad's like, he's stressed out. I had to sit him down and talk to him and like build him up. So the coach athlete relationship, whether it's a father daughter or whatever, is super interesting when you get to those levels because it's really you start to know it's like a husband and a wife or good friends. It's like a glance or a body language you can read from a mile away. But no, so I always appreciated the fact that my dad,
Oh
gave his
yeah.
time like that and would help out. But there were some holes in the coaching offering, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure, sure. So tell us a little bit about some of the this audience for sure, I'm guaranteed does not know the discus world or probably even track and field at large.
For sure.
There are some phrases that I learned from you.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I know, well, we all know this phrase globally, but people don't know what it really means. The
Yeah.
concept of one and done. One and
Yeah.
done. What is one and done? Because
Yeah.
people go one and done. I know what that means. What does it really mean? What does it
Uh,
mean?
in track and field, it's magic because that's the goal. So, especially in major championships, whether it's Olympic trials or the Olympics, World Championships, you have a preliminary round, and in field events, there's a qualifying standard, right? So, the ideal, the thing you want to do is have one attempt, whether it's a jump, throw, or vault, and be done, right? One and done, so you can rest and prepare and get ready for the final. Well, and then also in some cases, if you can one and done it, first throw of the competition, throw your best throw and shut everyone down, right? The psychological effect of that happening. So those are kind of the two meanings that the track world ascribes to one and done.
Yeah, I wish people, I mean, I know it has, I don't know the true like historical meaning of that phrase, but we can use that in so many ways. You give the best presentation. Now we say, what, drop the mic?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Drop the mic. Hey, I just threw 228.
Yes.
I just threw 69, 70 meters. Good luck.
Right.
Right. You're gonna
Exactly.
walk off in the ring and people are gonna look at you and go, oh my gosh, Susie just threw 70 meters. This is insane.
Right.
It
Right.
puts a lot of pressure on people, the one and
It
done.
does.
So one of the things you told me dad used to say in prep or your training, I guess it was in your coaching and training, he
Mhm.
had a certain quote and it was about doing good. Well, I'll let you tell the quote and I want you
Sure,
to, I'm
sure.
curious about
So, I
this
mean, from
quote.
an early age, right? So, from imagine a 10-year-old, he'd say, "Oh, we're doing good, but you could do better. Just broke the national record. Oh, that was great. Yeah, we're doing, how's our training? Oh, we're doing, and, very simple language, nothing complex, right? You're doing good, but you could do better. Actually, probably grammatically incorrect.
Wow.
And so that's kind of been the mantra of my entire athletic career. So, you acknowledge the progress you're making, but you need to stay focused and sort of hungry, for lack of a better term, for making the improvements, right? There's always something you can do better. And that can be very motivating. It can be maddening too, right? Because you do need to sort of give yourself the recognition
Grace, the grace.
yeah, the
Yeah.
grace to enjoy a win and that sort of thing. That mantra sticks with me to this day. And, it's also maybe a way of staying humble, right? Because even though you're doing great, like you can still do better. And, you're only as good as your last meet kind of thing.
Yeah. I only knew that from afar, but I remember seeing that in front of my face up in Eugene in 2008 when you had qualified. Now we know you're going to Beijing. It's great. And everyone's up there. JP, we had a big part. That was the deal.
Yeah,
Like
that was
we didn't,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, we didn't, but we didn't want to, we're not jinxers. We didn't want to plan a party till it was like official, but we
No, you
kind of in
can't
the
do that.
background. Yeah, I can't do that. Can't do that. But your
Right.
brother being in the wine industry, your brother obviously grew up in the wine industry, the wine group, Gallo, the whole family business of wine in Central Valley. So he was always good for a
Yeah.
good Cabernet and a Pinot Noir or whatever.
Yeah. The cases of wine were always ready to be open.
Correct. And when you made it, everything's great. I remember there was one time we're at that little restaurant and all your teammates were there, even the shot putters and people are celebrating. Your brother and I were hanging out, and I see you and dad were off and away, and you just weren't like having a super great time. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? He's like, Mac's gonna be Mac, dad's gonna be dad, they're just doing a download, she could have done better.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. I mean, I didn't know that that was a thing, all the way back to when you were 10 years old, 9 years old, 8 years old. That was just like your thing with you. So do you still manifest that in your life as an adult and as a mom? How do you
I
deal with
mean,
your kids?
so with the you can do good, but we're doing good, but you can do better kind of mantra.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I think I use it as a parent all the time. Maybe not in those words exactly, but recognizing the progress and celebrating an achievement, but still like pushing for
Yeah.
improvement. And yeah, I use it in my own life. Outside of sports, sometimes it's harder to measure, right?
Right.
The one sort of nice thing about when you're in the world of athletics is you have very specific measurables, right? And so in the business world or parenting, you have to invent the measurables, I guess, or
Yes.
grades, or I don't know, all the parenting measurables. Maybe you can start a parenting coaching business I can
Oh
sign up
no,
for.
no, 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 no. Too many
I would be your
immeasurables.
first customer. But yeah, so that philosophy, I think it's sort of universal, right? Like
Mhm.
it's something the Japanese use, they call it something else, right? And so I think people that are trying to be the best, I mean, not to be too cheesy, but like you're striving to be the best version of yourself. You're always looking for ways to improve. I
Yep.
mean, and those are the people I want to be around, right? And those are also the kind of humans I want to raise. Yeah, that's a theme I think in our lives in general. But it's not so harsh. Like I do give myself the grace to not be perfect or whatever. So
Yeah. That's and hopefully dad's not too hard on you anymore. He lets
my
you.
dad? Oh, no, no, no. Have you? Okay, that's like the saying where it's like, you start off as a toddler, and like as the parents age, like they become kids again. Like
Yes.
my dad, he's just happy like that I come over and see him, and
That's so good.
he's just after a good meal, to be honest. Like,
So good.
what is Susie feeding me today? Like, where are we going for dinner? What are the kids doing? So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, we're on easy street now with that stuff.
I love it. I love
No
it. All right,
joke.
let's transition a little bit because I want to be we're coming up on time here in a couple of minutes. Modern day. So you have two kids.
Yep.
So that's and they're what 8 and 10, right? 8 and 10.
Yes. Hmm.
So boy, girl.
Yep. The boy's the oldest, 10, and girl's the youngest, 8.
Toughest part about being a parent is what?
Oh God. That's the hardest question I've heard all day. I think it's just like, okay, good question. So, the hardest part, I think, is following through, right? Like, so my daughter has a much easier temperament than my son. So when I tell him no and I follow through with the no, even if it's something small but it's important, it's a shit show,
Yep.
right? He
Yep.
gets pissed. It's better now that he's 10, but the constant having to stand your ground and just parent and have boundaries, to me, that's the hardest. Like just being firm, I guess, in the boundary. So that is exhausting to me with
Yeah.
my son.
Yeah, I
It's
bet.
becoming a therapy session now. But I would
No,
say
yeah.
this, it's the most challenging and the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And that includes my Olympic sports.
Yeah. Wow, that's a big statement.
Yeah.
That's a big
Although,
statement.
nothing will be what track was. Like just like any person that had a career or was maybe military or a fellow athlete, like nothing will be what that was to me. But this is like a whole different ball of wax. It's very humbling,
Yeah, big time.
but I'm
Big
also
time.
very grateful. Like I wouldn't trade it for the world, and it's a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
yeah,
What
keeping those boundaries firm and
it's
like
tough.
always being like, it's like constantly coaching. You know what it is?
Yeah,
It's coaching. And I do
100%.
tell people that I'm like, parenting is like coaching all day long. And you just, at some point, you hope it sticks.
Yep.
Right.
Well, to me, it's personal accountability to me means keeping your word, not
Yeah.
just with yourself, with other people. So if you
Right.
tell your son or daughter or your friends or your colleagues or your partners, hey, I expect this from you and this is what I expect, the more that you let them off the hook, you're not really taking a stand for them anymore.
Right.
You're letting yourself off the hook as well. So
Totally.
what,
Because it is easier sometimes to relent
yeah,
and have a pleasant evening, right?
go. Yeah. Do I
No, I
really
know.
want to
I
have
think
this
about,
battle? Yeah. Do I want to have this battle?
honestly, I ask myself that question a lot. And then it's like, well, do I want my child to turn out like a decent human being? Then here we go. You're going
Yeah.
to eat that broccoli.
We should ask my brother Justin about the beet story. Remember the beet story? You got to ask him about that.
Okay, I will.
Yeah,
That's
Skip
hysterical.
Skip made him eat beets one night, and he sat there till midnight
Oh,
because
no.
he was so strong willed.
That's so
Being
funny.
the new stepdad, he's like, I'm not eating these beets. And it was
Right.
Skip and Justin had their own issues back in the day,
Oh,
which
God.
is it's magic. I mean, back then it was very frustrating to watch my brother
Yeah.
fighting, my dad, which wasn't not his dad. It was a
Right.
stepfather. It's a very difficult
Exactly.
situation, but I appreciate
Very.
that now. as a father, like what a child goes through when it comes to blended parenting and
Yeah.
time and not holding people accountable. And Skip, man,
Oh, Skip doesn't mess around.
Skip, my father, he's going to hold you accountable. Like
Oh yeah.
that's where I get a lot of my accountability stuff from is from my
Yeah.
dad. All right, so a couple quick questions that came from the group, and then I'm going to hit my last ones, and then we'll let you go. All right,
Sure.
so question is, wow, we got some good ones here. So, how has your athletic career impacted your professional career?
Mhm. Well, the principles are the same, right? So I feel very grateful that I learned some of these life lessons at an early age. So here's how I would sum it up. Be a professional, right? So I was in a sport, right? And I took a very professional approach.
Yeah,
And so when I'm at work, I try to take a very professional approach, right? Which sounds kind of dumb, maybe, but
not
I
really.
try to do my best. Like, what does a pro do? Like, what for the older people on the call? Like, what would
Yeah.
Michael Jordan do
Yep.
to, you know, go back to one of our earlier conversations this
Yep.
week? How would he approach this, right? What kind of job would you do if you were a pro at this, even if you're not a pro? So, I mean, even I'm gonna volunteer to coach my daughter's flag football league here coming up, 8-year-olds. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna send out all these parents what I expect their daughters to learn, like,
Love it.
positive exposure to flag football, how to catch, how to run, how to, do something they don't, condition themselves mentally and physically in a nice way, just like what I expect my daughter to do. So
Yep.
that template I learned as an athlete and I apply it to my daily life, trying to just set a standard that's high.
Yeah.
And I don't always reach it, but
Sure.
if you don't have something to shoot for,
What the
what are
heck
we
you
doing?
doing? Yeah. What the heck you
Exactly.
doing?
What are we
Yeah.
doing? So
That's
that's
good.
the biggest gift that the sports have given me. And then also the other thing I would say to parlay that I feel like I still have to learn all the time in terms of just keeping my own physical fitness in line is, it's small wins every day,
Hmm.
right? And so you just developing the habits, right? Which the upstream of the habit is the belief, right? And then those habits and actions follow that. So stacking those habits and stacking those wins daily, weekly, monthly, and not being discouraged when you don't on a day or you miss an opportunity, but the next day or the next call or the next meeting is an opportunity to practice that good habit or execute that good habit or whatever it is you're trying to do. I don't
Love
mean
it.
to be too vague, but just trying
No,
to
it's good.
cover
It's
a
great.
multitude of bases here. So consistency of habits and behavior, and then take the overall approach would be like a professional, like
Yeah.
really doing your best job.
All right. So let's see. As a high performing athlete, so what was your most exhilarating athletic moment and your lowest athletic moment?
Hmm.
It's a good question.
So my
Thank you.
most
Thank you, Jim.
exhilarating athletic moment would probably be I broke the American record the first time and through a distance like no one in this country had ever seen. I was the first.
Bombs, bombs. You're
Yeah,
dropping bombs.
yeah. So in international competition they measure in metric meters, but we are in feet, right? Obviously, in America. So anyway, I've got jokes in my head right now.
69.44, by the
Yeah.
way.
So I
69.
was the
I
first
still
American.
remember the number.
Yeah, so in feet, I was the first American over 220 feet.
Yep.
And so to finally break that barrier, it's kind of like you know, the mile barrier or something that people keep breaking and breaking, or even, um, the 9-second barrier and the 100 meters or
100
something. It's
meter.
like,
Yeah.
we didn't think it was possible, or it's like, how do you do that? And then now, I mean, honestly, I was the first person over 220 in this country. And, now fast forward to today, we have a woman doing it on the regular. So I feel like I had something to do it, not to be too egocentric, but,
I
you
get
break a
it.
barrier and it becomes easier.
Yeah, of course.
So that was very exhilarating. The lowest moment I would say was Beijing by far. And there's a lot to unpack there, but it's just the everything just sort of fell apart from my coaching situation,
Yeah.
our facility that a bunch of Olympic athletes were training in 6 months prior, we were kicked out and we had to move. It's like a whole
Yeah, I remember.
debacle.
I remember.
And at the time, when you're going through it as an athlete, you're trying to be mentally tough, and you're like, well, forget that. Then I'll just do. We're doing this, and this is what we're doing, and I have to make the team, and we da da da. Da. But it does run out eventually. Like coaching and facilities, and the basics do have to be in place to create an ecosystem where confidence and belief are or growing. And I think I maxed out whatever I had by trials. And so by the time I got to Beijing, I had nothing left mentally and or very little. And so that performance still hurts me to this day, but I think I've made peace with it on some level, but not entirely. So that one
Yeah.
still, but
I,
it still
oh,
breaks me.
it always blows my mind when I
Still
talk
have
to,
nightmares sometimes.
I believe it. I really
Yeah.
believe you. It blows my mind when I talk to, high level athletes like yourself, or I even listen to them, how you all remember stuff. It's like Tiger Woods always blows me away. Tiger Woods, like that you could quiz him. You're like, hey, do you remember in 2002 on Spyglass
Yeah.
on Hole? He's like, yeah, that was a par three. Yeah, she totally shanked
Right.
that. I'm like, how do you remember every golf shot?
Yeah.
Every golf shot. I mean, think about it. You're shooting it one round, you're shooting a 68 or a 72. That's a lot of memory. And that over the course of your career,
Yeah.
right? Now, I'm not saying yours is more or less, but I mean, let's be real. How many
Well,
times
each
did
of
you,
his shots were worth a lot of money, that's for sure.
I understand that, but how many times did you actually step in the circle, the ring,
Hmm.
and throw? So your memory has to be a lot more limited than a guy like Tiger. I'm not saying there's more or less, but you
Yeah.
all, doesn't matter if it's big number or small number, you can take us back to a date, a time, and say, I remember exactly that peak moment. I remember that low moment. And what was it
Yes.
like the next day? So that was
Right.
the follow-up question. How did
Yeah.
you rebound from the low moments? Because I always say, even to my corporate clients, yeah, hey, you have a bad day, bummer. You get to pick it up and start again tomorrow, right? You
Right.
lost the sale. Okay,
Yeah.
Olympic athletes, and I always use you as my paradigm.
Sure.
If I had a friend who hypothetically didn't go out and qualify for the Olympics,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Which we both know did not happen, which was in
Yeah.
04.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you look at your succession, 96,
And 12.
2000,
Hmm.
2004, you're like, yeah, Mike, thanks for reminding me, right? That's not
Hmm.
the point. But I
Nothing.
know in 04 you did not make it.
Correct.
So you had 4 years to think about it.
I did.
So, but
Yeah.
isn't there in those moments in time where you're like, God, I don't really want to wake up today and go train. I got 3 years to worry about that.
Oh, yeah,
I'll wait till next week. How do you
for sure.
overcome that?
Yeah, I think it's a grieving process, right? Like the bigger the thing, the longer the grieving cycle, right? And so it takes a minute. I think, it's a shock to the nervous system too, right? Like, so your brain has to process and organize it. And I think later in life, my 40s, I have way better tools to do that than I did when I was in my 30s, just because I have more life experience and I have a better understanding of how these things work. So isn't that like life's joke, right?
Yeah, of
Like you
course.
wish you would have known some of this stuff when you were younger.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a lot of self reflection. I've actually had to do work on it, even as recently as a couple of years ago, some visualization techniques just to kind of clear some of that stuff out. But yeah, it takes a while. Like big stuff like that, it's like a death. It's like losing a family member. It's not that much different in some
Well,
way.
that's a
But I think you find a way out by just keep getting up in the morning, and there are the days when none of that sounds appealing, but like at some point, what else are you gonna do? Like you got to do something, right?
yeah,
So I think if you can stay physically active, like we know that now, like that's always been appealing to me because I was an athlete, but
yeah,
when you're going through those moments to be physically active, we know that going for a brisk 20-minute walk, it doesn't even have to be a run, starts to change the trauma to the brain,
yep,
right? So
yep.
there, for me as an athlete, the like exercise and movement is always the gateway to the soul. And
Love it.
so I will use that to clear my mind, to get help, pray or get good thoughts in. And over time that has been sort of the saving grace. And then, developing other interests. And then
Love it.
so yeah, and it's probably different for everyone, right? Because not everyone's as drawn to exercise or movement. So it might be sauna, or it might be breathing, or it might be calling up Mike Lindstrom and being like, "Are
Uh,
you playing together?"
look, in
Seriously.
my world, if people don't call me that I've already worked with, that's good news.
And by the way, yes, but I do want to kind of give you some props here. I was thinking about it and making some notes myself. There's a couple instances when like you really bailed me out, and I want to say thank you in
Oh,
front of an audience because
thank you.
I use this to this day. And there was one instance where I was throwing very, very well. I was coming off there. And to speak to your other question about resilience, when I was in, so Beijing was kind of almost like the end of the era for me and was hard. But there's other setbacks, and you just regroup, try to learn from it, right? It's the same formula that you're doing in business too. You try to learn from where you made the mistake or how it went wrong, assimilate that information and make the next iteration better. So anyway, I had done this at this point in my career, later in my career, and throwing bombs. I'm throwing like world-class throws in practice. My first meet, I win, but it's like a rinky-dink meet, and I did not throw well. And I'm like, I have a head case. I'm a head case. And what's interesting too is growing up, I never did, right? So when you're young and you are so good, you're in a class of your own, the mental game's a lot different than when you're world class and everyone's really good and you're not getting those same performances, or,
Yeah.
you're training at a high level, you're not throwing that in the meet. So I give you a call and we're chit-chatting. He's like, Mike, you got to read the inner game of tennis. I go, okay.
Oh man.
And I'm like, all right. And I think you gave me some other homework to do. I'm like, all right. So I went and read that book, and I tell you, like, I recommend that book to this day. Like, I probably have it on my bookshelf here at the sheriff's office. I gave it to the sheriff's office
I do
employees.
too, actually. Yeah, that's
And
tennis, right? There.
Mike, you coached me out of a slump. Like, you really did. And probably 3 weeks later is when I broke the American record for the second time over in Maui. And so I credit you and the inner game of tennis for, the work had already, like, the body was ready to do it, right? The training had been done, but I was getting in my own head, as you would say, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was a very helpful tool for me. So thank you. Thanks for that. And then there was another time so am I going too long? We have time for this last. Okay.
No, we're wrapping up. That's fine.
So in my era, you go, and still today, how track and field athletes make money is, okay, you might have a shoe sponsor, which I was very fortunate at ASICS my whole career.
Yep.
Yeah. So you assimilate these sponsors, and then the real money's made in the European circuit, where you go over and you spend a period of time in Europe and you hit 5 or 6 different countries in a matter of a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. Well, I'm in an event where I have to be very spatially aware. So jet lag is like, you got to know how to handle jet lag. And I'm not saying the sprinters don't have that issue or whatever, but long story short is the first meet's always really hard getting off the plane, because you literally get off the plane, you're in Europe, and either the next day or the day after you're competing. So my first meet was a disaster, and I've got like 5 more meets, and I have to pull my head out to make this a profitable tour for me. And I went back into my Lindstrom notes and I was like, all right. I can't remember specifically, but it was basically like, I got to change the way I'm thinking about this, my self-talk and my belief, because if I believe that I'm just getting my ass kicked in the next 5 meets, I might as well pack up and go.
Right. That's right.
So I had to really dig in and practice, what we had talked about. And by the end of that trip, it turned out to be one of my best European tours. I threw my farthest throw on European soil at the end. So, which was very, was great for me. Very rewarding. It was nice to be able to pull myself out in Europe when it wasn't such a friendly environment. So thank you. Those are 2 things that really jumped out. Yeah.
Gratitude accepted. Thank you so much. I always tell people that's why I do what I do. I know people ask me over the years, like, Mike, you're getting older. Why do you still coach people one-on-one? Why don't you leverage your time and just do group stuff? I go, well, I get the juice is the one-on-one, man. That's where you get the juice. I understand. And you and I have talked about this. Until when you wake up every day or you go to bed at night and you look at your calendar and you say, I have to, then that's when you need to hang it up. When you still go to bed at night and you look at your calendar and go, I get to talk to 10 people tomorrow. I get to do a webinar with Suzy tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, it's stressing me out thinking I want to make sure it's right. Technology's good and it screws up. But I wake up and say, I get to talk to Suzy for an hour and talk about life. So that's my benchmark. If I ever get to have to, then I will take some of your advice and maybe try a different venture. But I'm young.
Hey, 50s are the new 40s. 50s are the new 40s.
I can do this till I'm 90. I just more wisdom.
We got Peter Attia, telling us how to live longer.
I got more wisdom in the bank that's coming through life stories like this. So, all right. So we're going to do rapid fire, then we're going to close out. You ready?
The answer is I'm actually not ready, but I'll do my best.
All right. Rapid fire, real quick. Favorite movie?
Pass. No, I'm kidding. You know what? There was a Christmas movie last year that the kids watched that was really good, and I can't remember.
You watching Hallmark?
It was like, it wasn't the Christmas Story, of course. It's like a new one, but it's like about it's about Christmas shows, and the whole town gets behind it. Anyway, okay.
It's all Oh, you got to come up with something better than that.
No, it's great. We watched it a bunch.
All right, all right.
Sorry to disappoint.
All right. So without limits is one of mine about Prefontaine, by the way.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
Big shocker there with Steven.
Yeah. I have a man crush on that man. Steve Prefontaine. All right.
He's got good hair.
A book other than Inner Game of Tennis. You already mentioned Inner Game of Tennis. What's another book that you'd recommend?
I like Ellen Langer, who is a psychologist out of Harvard. And it is the Mindful Body.
Mindful Body. Okay. Good. All right. Quote. You can't quote dad. Quote, your dad's been quoting you since 10 about, you're doing good, but you can do better. Give me a good quote.
Well, okay. This is going to be a twofer.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's not. It's also a book title. What you think about me is none of my business.
Oh, it's good. That's good.
Because like for me, I particularly struggle with that sometimes. I'm like, oh, what are these people thinking? I'm like,
who does not? Everyone does.
Yeah.
Everyone does. All right. What's the other one?
Especially in the mom world. What's up?
What's the other? What's a twofer? What's the other one?
Oh, I said the book because it's also a book.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so,
all right. Biggest pet peeve.
Okay. I hate it when I can hear like someone chew, like the audible chewing.
My gosh.
Or picking your teeth at the table. Oh,
yeah. Man, you and Monica.
I saw someone once, like someone I know, like whip out a toothpick and like pick their teeth at the table. I'm like, where did you grow up? Like, who said that was okay?
Oh my goodness. That's so good. You and Monica are right on there. She'll smack the boys back upside the head. If they're open their mouth, she can hear it. I chew my gum. I play baseball. I'm kind of a Hubba Bubba guy. So I smack. Oh man, she'll smack me upside the back of the head.
I'm surprised she sits by you.
Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. All right, Sue. Hey, listen, I know we're coming up on time. I so appreciate this. We got to bring you back for round 2. By the way, for everybody that's here, you are in our VIP community, so you have access to you. Not literally, don't bug her, but I appreciate that. That's one thing that when I built this Kajabi platform was to be able to bring people together from different backgrounds: doctors, lawyers, accountants. I got a couple mediators in there, athletes that are like-minded, but the thing that binds us all, other than my friendship, is we're all looking to get better. We want to learn from each other. So I appreciate you being part of this community, and we got to tap into you a little bit more in the future. So thanks for your time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. And thanks for what you've done for me over my career, and look forward to what we'll do in the future.
All right. Tell the family I said hello.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Thanks everybody. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.